Hello and welcome to another RHLSTP. Yes, I'm in my dressing gown. It's the middle of the day when I'm recording this. Fuck you. It's lockdown. Yeah, my hair looks a mess. I haven't been able to go to the hairdressers. Have you been observing what's going on? Stop having a fucking go at me. Anyway, this week it's with Nish Kumar. Very exciting that this show was recorded in an actual theatre, the wonderful Clapham Grand. There was no actual audience, but there was, they were an actual audience, but they weren't in the room. They were online. I think if you're watching the video, you might be able to see some of their stupid, nerdy faces. They were lovely. Thank you very much to everyone who paid to watch it live. Sorry, there were a few technical difficulties, but now you can enjoy it without those technical difficulties. Nish is too modest to tell you in this interview, but I'm going to tell you for him. On March the 19th, he has 2 albums dropping. Dropping means coming out. I'm surprised they're still called albums. It's a sort of mixture of the old and the new. They're called It's In Your Nature to Destroy Yourselves, Part 1 and 2. Nish is generally one of the best stand-ups working in the UK today, so I thoroughly recommend you buy those or listen to those albums. I don't even know if you have to pay or not. I expect you to. What kind of world would it be where someone just gave out loads of content for nothing? They would be insane. They'd end up sitting in an attic in a dressing gown, just talking to puppets. Talking of which, my Twitch channel continues, twitch.tv/rkherring. Mondays, Wednesdays and Thursdays are usually nights are coming up, and you can see RHLSTPs recorded live on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. usually. We've got some great guests coming up, including Jeremy Paxman. Alice Fraser should be tonight if you're watching this live and listening to this live. And a couple of acts, Brian Reagan from America and Mary Lynn Rackscharb. Don't know how to say her second name yet, but I worked that out. She is from The Larry Sanders Show, 24, fantastic comedian and actor. And I will work out how to say her name before I meet her. That's just the kind of guy I am. If you enjoy these, please do support us by buying a badge. Go fasterstripe.com/badges. But let's sit back, relax, and enjoy RHLSTP. Please welcome a man who's just delighted to be out of the house. It's Richard Herring. Hello! Yes! We're here. We're live. Welcome to Richard Herring's lovely South London theatre podcast. Though I was hanging around with all these nerds, look at the state of the people who have paid to see this. And Sky Brewer is the only one who looks like a normal human being. The rest of them... I'm not even sure about Sky. They all call it RHLSTP anyway, and they can do in the chat right now if they wish. Welcome. It's very exciting to be out in a theatre. Very exciting to be doing this live. Anything could happen. I could say bum if I wanted, and no one could stop me. Oh, that's pretty much true always. Let's see. We've got Andy McCaches in there, of course. There's a few people. As there was a cat in earlier with Lydia. Oh, there's Lydia. There's a cat. I don't know if the cat's called Lydia or whether the person behind the cat is called Lydia. Of course, there's more than one person in some of these rooms, which is meaning they're getting a very cheap ticket, isn't it? Luckily, most of you are sad and alone. So when it says 350, 400 people, it more or less is. Thanks to the loneliness and singleness of most of the people who enjoy this podcast. So thank you very much. Thanks very much for paying. And there is another one coming up after this as well, so do hang around, but not in the same room. I'll tell you about that at the end. What's going on? Oh, I don't know if you saw Wayne's World is back. Slightly terrifying advert featuring Mike Myers and Dana Carvey as Wayne and Garth. I mean, just imagine a man in his 50s still doing the same stuff he did in the 1990s from his own house, beaming that out, and absolutely pathetic. What, they're getting paid millions of dollars? Oh, they beat me. I think there should be a horror film with Garth, though. The 50-something-year-old Garth. It's still in the same clothes and wig, but with his terrible, terrifying, wrinkly old man's face. Good luck to them. It's nice to see them back. I did my last podcast with Danny Robbins, and we talked mainly about poltergeists and ghosts back in my own home. The night that we had that conversation, I was woken up at 12:30 a.m. when my Apple Pod, my new Apple Pod that I've got in my kitchen, suddenly came on its own, full blast, playing a song. I have no idea what the song was. It wasn't one of my songs or a song I'd requested, to the extent that it woke me up upstairs and I had to come down, and it was just absolutely, completely... Now that is a sophisticated ghost, to be able to say, hey Siri, play something that'll scare the shit out of the people in the house. So it is slightly scary. I think our poltergeist is back. And yeah, we are doing 2 shows in one night here today. It's never been attempted with RHLSTP before. And something might go terribly wrong, but hopefully it should be okay. People are drinking. Let's ask. You can put your answer in the chat, or you can hold up your hands. Would you prefer to have a hand made out of ham or an armpit that dispenses sun cream? Put your hand up for ham and put your armpit up for armpit. Let's see how we go. Stuart Light was straight, and he's been thinking about it. It's mainly hands. No one's putting their armpit up. Oh, is that an armpit, Sky? Or is that a hand? I can't tell. Good. My God, what is Simon George? That's a terrifying... Simon George has just paid to have a terrifying, what looks to me slightly racist puppet. I will talk to Nish Kumar about this in a second. He can tell me if it's racist or not. I'm not at liberty to say, but it looks... Unless that's your face, Simon, in which case it's me who's the racist. I think you'll have a look. So it's very still if it is him. One of Danny Robbins' haunted podcasts is about a South African man living during apartheid who is haunted by a 6-foot-tall gollywog that appears to him outside his bedroom. And so I'm slightly feeling that might be what's happening to me now. I don't think I deserve it. I'm a nice guy. Anyway, look, we're going to crack on because we've only got an hour. And, look, Siri's come alive because I said, hey, Siri, go away. My guest tonight is probably best known for appearing on 50 Funniest Moments of 2013. He did so well that they asked him back for the 50 Funniest Moments of 2014, but he wasn't as good on that, so he didn't come back for the 50 Funniest Moments of 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, it was Nish Kumar. Michael Sheen was unavailable. Nish Kumar, he's here.
Hello.
Hooray.
Hi, Rich.
How are you doing?
How are you? Yeah, very good.
I'm
Great
good.
to see you. I'm so excited to see other human beings.
Me too.
Even pleased to see you, Richard. That's how bad things are.
It is bad. You used to stare at me out your back window.
Yeah, I did.
When you were throwing eggs and feces at me.
Yeah.
What do you think of Simon? Simon George, bottom second from the left there at the bottom.
Okay, first of all, I do enjoy that you've gone to my primary role, which is explaining whether things are racist to white men in their 50s. That's my primary function in life. I think, Simon George, that does look like a doll from... Is it from the How to Train Your Dragon franchise?
Oh,
it looks like a dragon from How to Train Your Dragon. Yes, it's nodding.
No, so it's not racist.
So, now I get to use my new catchphrase, it's not racist, it's a dragon. And that's a new game show format that I'll be selling to any commissioners that are interested.
That's nice. I like the fact Simon is committed to this.
Yes,
he's sitting just off to the side.
Simon's refusing to appear himself and has instead left the dragon. And listen, lockdown has affected us in a lot of different ways. And Simon clearly has had a breakdown and thinks he's a stuffed dragon.
I mean, do you think it is a good thing to be so clearly able to see your own audience and assess?
No, I don't think it. I mean, I think it's not a good thing for you.
No, it says
that's what I'll say.
It says a lot about. Look at their bored face. A, they're not having fun, and B, they're just sitting there judging me. They dare judge. Look at that bearded guy there, George. He's on the background of Threads.
Stuart Light looks like he got some awful news half an hour before the podcast started. He looks... Oh, no, he's just shaking his head. He's just very depressed.
They're just sad. I mean, it's a sad time. And it's lovely for you all to join us. Thank you very much.
Oh no,
coming
Stuart
along.
Light's laughing now.
Stuart, so we got one laugh, and that
one.
is better than usual.
I've had worse gigs.
You certainly have. We would almost certainly talk about one of them. So it's nice. How's your lockdown been, Nish? You were working a lot last year.
I worked a lot last year. So like so it's weird being back here because this is the room where we were just talking about this before we started. But we did Curie and Jade's a musical show here. Where they get comedians to sing songs from musicals, and we did a special episode. We did a special show around the Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical episode, and it was amazing, and it was full for 2 nights. And then Joss Whedon, who created Buffy, turned up and watched, and it was fucking amazing. And that was probably the last good thing that happened. But then, pretty much as soon as the lockdown started, pretty much the first week of lockdown, we were supposed to do the latest series of the MASH report.
Yeah.
And so we then sort of had to quit. Basically, I had to get a camera crew in my house to set up a camera, and they had to disinfect outside my house. And I'll cut to the quick, Rich. My neighbours think I'm in porn. My neighbours all think that I've opened an OnlyFans account and have been making some very high-res porn because a man basically dropped camera equipment that he disinfected outside my house and then just put it in my house.
It was good, though. I mean, it was good to see. You were maybe one of the first shows that
I think us and Have I Got News For You were scheduled to start the first week back.
Right.
And it was, it was exciting stuff. It was very exciting stuff. It was weird to know what tone to pitch it at, and also it required a lot of technical expertise that I still don't fucking understand. And it was really, really weird.
Well, you had quite good cameras, that's explained by them being delivered, but for a while, the thing I was doing from home, the snooker and stuff I was doing from home, was higher quality than anything on the BBC. Which was quite astonishing. And I didn't have that expensive a camera. We'd set up our cameras just literally the weekend before lockdown.
Yeah.
We had been planning to do it anyway, so it wasn't just let's get it all in. And I hadn't thought we'd do as much as we did. But yeah, we thought, let's get some decent HD cameras. But literally, and even now, a lot of my guests on this, when I'm doing it via Zoom, have very, very poor
the
camera
setups.
equipment.
The varying quality of people's technical setups is very visible. But my producer was very perceptive, and very early on, when Johnson gave the press conference where he said oh, it's going to be fine. I went to a COVID ward. I shook hands with everybody, and nothing bad has happened to me or will ever happen to me, and I see no consequences from this decision. My producer was like, we're fucked. We need to make a plan. He did not trust any of the information coming out of the government for the first week of March, and he was correct not to. He was absolutely correct to not trust any of that. Don't worry, it's going to be fine. Let's go to Cheltenham and lick horses. He didn't trust any of that shit. And so he had made quite a lot of contingencies. So I think when we started doing the show, we were unusually well prepared.
Right.
But only because of the complete and utter lack of faith that my producer had in our Prime Minister and our government.
And you were also doing a show. I mean, the MASH report was great. I thought you did a great... Were you clean shaven for the MASH?
Basically.
What happened with the...
So I had to do my own hair and makeup, and I tried to trim my beard, and I shaved the whole thing off by complete accident. And it was a fucking disaster. And so then because I'd shaved a massive streak in it, and so then I was like, well, I'll probably just shave the whole thing off. And so we talked about it on the show and stuff. And then in December, I was supposed to do Big Fat Quiz of the Year. And I was like, I'm surely not going to fuck up shaving my face twice. And then I ended up shaving the entire thing off. I thought it'd be funny to leave a moustache. It wasn't funny. It made me look like a sex offender. And loads of people were tweeting me afterwards being like, don't let this man near your primary school. And I was like, it's just a moustache! Not a pedo. It's not my fault that
It's
I can't
weird.
shave
It's a
my
weird.
face.
I grew a moustache for Movember, and
Yeah.
this is part of the reason I started doing Peter Dibdin, which was my old driving instructor character, as a result, because I suddenly looked at myself, went, "Fuck! I just look exactly like the character I wrote when I was 25, and I'm now the right age to play it. But yeah, I kept it for a while because I suddenly started getting roles. I got acting parts. I thought this will be good for this acting part.
You're back.
I'm back.
You're finally back.
The moustache. Also, you don't need to do any acting if you've got a moustache.
Is that right?
The moustache just does it all for. The moustache follows people around the room.
Oh, that explains why everyone loves There Will Be Blood. That's not Daniel Day-Lewis acting. People just love his moustache.
It's the moustache. So you don't need to. And I had big glasses and a moustache. There's nothing. You don't need to do anything.
Groucho Marx made a whole career out of just having big glasses and a moustache.
But so Quibi, you were.
And then I did
Quibi.
show for Quibi for like 4 months.
Yeah.
Which Quibi was unfortunately the first app to die of coronavirus. It's never added on any of the statistics, but they should have, at the end of the statistic, they should say, and also one app bit the farm. Quibi was, it was a short form content that people had to subscribe to.
Right.
And it did not fare well. But it's weird because I can't really speak ill of it at all because ultimately we got like 4 months of work out of it.
Yeah.
It was fucking amazing. And like when it all, because we were renewed and we were supposed to be finishing, we were doing a show about the American, like a UK perspective on the American election.
Right.
And it was really good fun, and all the people I was working with were all my friends, and we were having a great time. And they extended us right up to the election. We were supposed to go to 2 weeks after the election. And then I got a text message from the head of from my executive producer. We were doing weird hours because we were working with American stuff. So I actually fell asleep at like 7 p.m.
Right.
And I woke up like an hour later. And all I saw was a text message that just said, I want you to know I'm looking into this and we'll get back to you as soon as I have concrete answers. And I was like, well, that's not going to be good. No one looks into things because they're going too well. And that was how I found, and it got like leaked in the press that
Right.
Quibi was going under. But it was great. It was
Was it your fault that it went under, do you think? Was it down
Listen,
to you?
I don't think it's very helpful to start doling out blame, Richard. Okay? I don't think it's very helpful at all. It's like when the Titanic went down, no one was like, whose fault was this? They were just like, let's try and actually, no, they were like, whose fault? There was quite a specific inquest.
With COVID, then next to that, Boris Johnson's very much saying, now is not the time to work out what we're doing wrong. The time for that is down the line. So that's the same for you, right?
Listen, I believe that there should be a public inquiry into Quibi. I believe that. I just think that at the moment, it's a bit soon for a public inquiry. Let's give it 15, 20, 100 years.
Okay. I'm delighted it failed.
Why?
Because, not so much for you, but because...
Delighted it failed.
Hold on, Ben Walker's trying to ring because I accidentally rang him. Because it was created by Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Yeah.
And he made the decision to cut the song "The Love Is Gone" from the Muppet Christmas Carol, and it was an incorrect decision.
Yes, I did read that subsequently.
And
yes.
And thus, I think this is payback for his poor decision. And it's interesting that the minute Quibi went down, they discovered the actual footage
and
of that, so they're going to put it back. They're going to put it back in again.
Yeah.
And that is all I can say.
I think I thought when you said you were delighted, you had some sort of personal show business beef. But it turns out you're just angry about something that happened to a children's film 30 years ago.
It's not a children's film. It's the greatest film ever created.
I just saw it for the first time this Christmas. I'd never seen Muppet Christmas Carol.
You'd have to watch it with The Love Is Gone in it, first of all, for it to make any kind of sense.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just nonsense. It's just a man talking to a load of puppets. But once The Love Is Gone is back in there...
Does that song explain why they're Muppets? Because I have to say, otherwise that film makes, or if anything, too much sense.
Yeah. It does. It explains everything. And come on, I think there should have been an Oscar for Michael Caine. It's Michael Caine's greatest performance.
It's a brilliant movie.
And there should have been an Oscar for Beaker as well. I genuinely believe
Beaker
it.
is great.
He's only got a small part, Best Supporting Actor. But I noticed this year for the first time, just as he leaves in his scene, he goes, and it's a very well-timed...
it's a perfect movie. Like, A Muppet Christmas Carol is an absolute... I am a frequent guest on Brett Goldstein's film
he loves
podcast.
It. Yeah.
And Brett repeatedly says there's no such thing as a perfect film apart from A Muppet Christmas Carol. And I watched it over Christmas, I have to say, I agree.
Good.
And I think they should now veto any adaptations of other classic novels. Or like, I really liked the David Copperfield movie.
Yeah.
Because again, I thought like, let's do something fun with it. Let's get either Muppets or brown people.
Yeah.
Those are the only times. I don't want to see another fucking Pride and Prejudice. I don't want to see another fucking Ben-Hur unless it's Muppets or brown people. If you get Muppets and brown people, immediate Oscar. That's an immediate Oscar. If you've got brown people and if Dev Patel...
What about 12 Years a Slave with the Muppets in it, with one black person and the rest are Muppets?
I'll accept that if the white people are all Muppets.
Okay.
That's the only way I think you could. That's the only way I think you could do 12 Years a Slave.
Or would it be better if the slaves were all Muppets? Would that make it more sympathetic?
I don't know that
to
it's
the people
possible for a Muppet 12 Years a Slave to be any more or less offensive. I feel like once you've used the phrase 12 years a Muppet slave, is it 12 Muppet years a slave? 12 years a Muppet slave. I think once you've entered into that area, you may as well just go all out and make them all Muppets.
Okay.
I think that there's no value in like, maybe it's less offensive if we do one of those two things.
I should add, the Muppet Christmas Carol is worse with The Love Is Gone in it.
Why is it worse?
Because it's quite boring. But you need to have it in. He still made the wrong choice. And I hope I hope everything he does turns to shit in his hands.
Well, let's not go that far. I hope everything he does results in a short-term financial bump for me and then goes to shit.
Fair enough.
I hope to be involved at some way that benefits me financially in all Jeffrey Katzenberg's future business endeavours, even when they go completely wrong.
So are you having some time off now, or is there more something
Richard,
in the pipeline?
I am off as off can possibly be. I am off as... I woke up this morning... this is like the last 2 days I've been up at 8 a.m. both days.
Right.
Just to watch cricket. That's the only reason I'm getting up. Otherwise, I mean, it is... I'm wearing trousers.
Yeah.
Like, not jeans. I'm wearing trousers as a mark of respect.
Thank you.
For this podcast. I feel like this is a big opportunity for me because this is my third time on here. The first time you were I could feel in the subtext you were disappointed with the size of the audience I'd pulled. And then that made its way from the subtext to the text when you said, I'm disappointed with the size of the audience. Then the second time, you booked Michael Sheen and he dropped out and I was your most available guest. And so the third time, now I'm here on my own terms. People have paid.
Yep.
And also dragons have paid. And this is a big fucking opportunity for me. I really feel like if this goes well, things could start turning around.
How many of them are paid for me and how many of them are paid for you? If you paid because it's Nish, could you raise your hand now just as a little sample screen? Oh, there's a... yeah.
For the benefit of the people listening on the audio, all of the hands have gone up.
No, about half.
The hands have gone up. It's like Munich in the mid-30s, the hands raised.
They've paid for both, says Ben Stride Darnley to everyone.
As long as people haven't paid despite me being here, that would be the worst thing. Andy McCage just said he paid for Lou. Shut the fuck up, Andy McCage.
Well, it is stupid because that's a separate payment and it's the next one. So you're a fucking idiot. So let's talk. We did mention that you'd had one bad gig in your life. Now we're talking about bad gigs.
Otherwise, it's been 13 years of uninterrupted success.
And this happened since you were last on.
You have one bad gig, and it dominates the news cycle for 24 hours.
And I want to get it back in there. I want it to feature at the Lord Taverner's gig. Now, I was surprised to find out that this was an afternoon gig as I researched.
Yeah, it was an afternoon gig. Say what you will about me, but I can turn any room, Richard. I can turn any room. I can make a bear pit out of a sandbox full of puppies. I can manufacture. Give me 10 minutes and I can turn this room into a nightmare. And there's only 6 people here and they're all being paid. Oh, I can turn it round. I can find some way of upsetting all of you fucking camera operators. Don't worry. I know how to push Lou Sanders' buttons. Stood at the back, there she is.
Well, so it was an afternoon gig. It was for charity.
Yes.
And they
It was an afternoon gig for charity. What could possibly go wrong?
and the Lord Taverners. And this is my favourite bit.
Okay.
I haven't seen it. I've only read transcripts.
Oh, have you only you haven't seen the footage?
I haven't watched it.
Oh, you've got to see the footage.
Okay, I didn't.
Rich.
I wouldn't know where there
it's
was
quite
footage.
spectacular.
I should have known this would happen when I. This is you. I should have known this would happen.
Now, before you read this, I will say that shorn of its context, this presents me in quite a negative light. Okay? I just want to get that in there. Carry on.
I should have known this would happen when I agreed to do a set in front of people who colonised my ancestors. So it's okay. One man from the shouted back, "That was ages ago." That's my favourite bit. That was ages ago. What about now? That was ages ago. That's his heckle. That's his heckle.
I'm really pleased that. Okay, I'm not really pleased. I'm pleased that they kept the transcript of that in, because sometimes these things happen to me, and I think people don't believe that they happened to me. And so it's good that there was, like, documentary evidence. Look, the Lord's Taverners is a great charity, and they provide sport. It's all done through. It's somehow affiliated to Lord's Cricket Ground, and it's very affiliated to, like, the English cricket boards and stuff. And they provide sporting equipment to kids from low-income families and disabled kids. It's a fantastic charity, and, like, I've done loads of stuff with them before. And they have this big Christmas lunch every year, and I've been to the lunch before, and so I know the crowd, and it is like it can be a little bit. Spicy,
Yeah.
which is ironic, given I imagine most of them would consider pepper to be a bit much. But, like, it's... So they asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said yes. And the first couple of minutes went very well, which did not make it into any of the goddamn news reports at the time. No one talks about how much fun they were having on the Titanic before it hit the iceberg. Okay? I've seen the film. They were having fun doing Irish jigs in the basement. No one talks about that. That's not in the Celine Dion songs. And anyway, because it was going well, I thought, it was like 10 days before the election in 2019. And I thought, I just thought, let's bring up Brexit. And just see how it, and there's a lot of, like, influence, because also it was so weird, because, like, John Burkow was there. Like, and so it was a strange old audience. And I just thought, what's the harm? And also I sort of thought, if you may as well make jokes to these people. These are people who are, powerful and influential people. Surely they won't, and it's a charity gig. Like, how upset can they get? Anyway, a man threw a bread roll at me. A man threw a bread roll at me, and the problem is, it was not accurate, and so I actually had to ask the audience, because it had, like, rolled somewhere next to me, and it was so far away from me that I had to say, did someone throw that at me? And Tim Key was there. There were other comedians there. Tim Key was there, Chris Addison was there, John Robbins was there, and we were all, Miles Jutt was there, and there was a table of them right down the front, and I said, did someone throw that bread roll at me? And I could just see Key's big moon face just looking at me, just nodding his head, going, yeah, that was, someone threw that bread roll at you. And sort of all hell broke loose. And then a man dressed like Sergeant Pepper appeared, and he was like, listen, I've been asked to leave the stage before on many occasions, Richard. I don't mean to brag, but I'm quite bad at my job. But this time, he was the most undignified thing, because he just took the microphone off me and said, "Now is the time for the raffle." And it was, and so anyway, I sort of get off stage, and then it was like, we all went out and got drunk afterwards. Like, me and Key and Addison and Robbins, there were a whole bunch of us, went out and got drunk. And when something happens in a room, you're like, they kind of have the right to boo you. Like, if they've paid for it, they kind of have the right to boo. I would draw the line at throwing bread rolls, but, also I would say, if you're
of a political persuasion that has supported a party that's resulted in massively increased food bank usage. Possibly throwing food around is not the best look. Okay. Like, the optics of that are suboptimal. But I didn't mind any of that stuff. And then when we were at the pub, somebody texted me and was like, why are you in the fucking Daily Telegraph? And someone had filmed a video of it, right. And it was on the Telegraph. And then the next 24 hours was absolute chaos, right. Because it was like, you know, it was on all the press. My cousin in Singapore phoned my mum to tell her. That's how my mum found out. And like within 24 hours, you're like, and then as usual with these things, it's like it then spirals out of control. And then the death threats start, and suddenly you're like, and so there's a certain like level of death threat where you're just like, that's fine. There's a certain level of death threat. If you're like a woman or a person of color or someone from the LGBTQ community, if you do anything in the public eye, there is a certain level of death threat that you have to just let slide. Because otherwise you would do nothing else. Otherwise your job would be comedian/death threat administrator. So there's a certain level that you just have to, like, if I may use a cricket terminology, just leave outside your off stump. Like, just let it go past. But then there's like a couple of points where like a couple of them got quite specific. And then it also like, your kind of mental state gets quite addled because then journalists start calling you from unknown numbers. And like, I don't know how these fucking people and they weren't calling my agent, they were phoning my personal mobile phone. Right. And then when you ask them how they got the number, they're like, oh, you know, I just picked it. And you're like, what the fuck? Who the fuck is passing around my phone number? And so then there's a certain point where you're like, my agent was like, we got to speak to the police about this. So then the problem is you have to talk to a policeman who's like, so can you tell me what happened? And you're like, well, it all started with me being pelted with bread. And I don't think I've ever respected anyone more than the policeman not just immediately laughing in my fucking face. Like, the fact that he got through that meeting with a straight face blew my mind. But it's just really weird, and you sort of see how the news cycle works. And it's like, I don't have a better metaphor for it than this, but the way that these kind of culture wars style things happen is that they get picked up and reported by the kind of respectable end of the conservative press. And then it's like a human centipede effect where it gets like shat into the mouth of then the like talk radio people. Yeah. And they swallow it down and then they shit it into the mouth of, there's got to be a better metaphor than this. And then they shit it into the mouth of these sort of like, right-wing pundits that sort of do the talk show circuit. And by the process of the digestion and the shitting and the digestion and the shitting, by the end it comes out that I like walked on stage and was like, right, everyone who voted Brexit, up against the wall, I'm gonna shoot you. And in the meantime, I will be masturbating over this picture of Lenin. While you all line up, let me sing the red flag as I massage my erect penis whilst reading extracts from Karl Marx's Capital. Whereas actually what I did was say some like just very mild things about Brexit.
It seems a shame to want to kill you when you've already died as well. That doesn't seem fair. You've died on stage.
I died on stage.
And then they're saying, now we're going to kill you as well.
They're really, luckily I'm a Hindu, so I believe in reincarnation. Otherwise, I don't know how I'd have psychologically processed that death. But yeah, it's just interesting to see how the cycle of outrage works and how it's kind of... And the thing is, when it's a comedian being hit by bread, you're like, that is... If it wasn't me, I'd think it was fucking hilarious. And I do respect the number of my friends that have not laughed in my face about this whole story. And the problem is when it's a comedian being hit by bread, it's relatively benign. Like, what it represents might be unpleasant in terms of what opinions are allowed to express. And certainly there's an edge of what opinions about a country that I was born in I am allowed to express as a brown man. There's definitely a lot of like unpleasant edges to all of it. But the problem is that when it's a story like comedian gets hit with bread, that's one thing. But when it's a story like lockdowns are all bullshit, and that is getting sprayed through the kind of right-wing human centipede thing, that's when it's really bad, because that's when it starts like killing people.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of problem we're in this country at the moment, is that there is a very like well-oiled machine of right-wing outrage that can culture war literally anything.
Yeah.
Like you would think that people not dying of a disease is something that you can't have a political perspective on. Like, you would think like everyone is like, oh no, I like my gran. But it turns out that is naive beyond belief. But anyway, it was funny because it was like 10 days before the election. And like somehow a bread roll rolling near me is like worthy of being the #1 read story on every fucking news website in the world.
Well, again, it's interesting because like when I have certain people on the podcast, and I can't see the connection between them all. Because I don't see colour, so I can't see. I'm just looking, going, what's the connection between Nish and Sophie Duker? Why are people so cross about them? And is it just because they're outspoken about politics? But it's the minute, you don't, it's often happens with female comedians as well, I have to say. But it's just like people have this knee-jerk reaction, they've decided without, I had a little discussion with some people on the Instagram post saying, does anybody find Nish Kumar funny? And I'm going, like for a comedian to successfully have a career, there must be somebody. Not me, mate. No, I'm with you.
No, I was trying to book Michael Sheen again. I couldn't be more against this.
Somebody must, surely. And if they don't, what an amazing human being he must be to have somehow fashioned this comedy career and performed in front of paying audiences. But people are, it's sort of, that's how that right-wing approach has got, that they're finding other ways. And also on the left wing as well, I have to say, to attack the people they want to attack without.
Yeah.
So these things be kind of coded. There's a thing in the Spectator, which I don't know if you read your reviews, and you wouldn't expect the Spectator to like you very much anyway, Nish. About the MASH report. The MASH report, which the BBC believes is a satire show, but which neutral viewers regard as a weekly political seminar that teaches liberals to avoid thinking for themselves. That's what neutrals think about it. So imagine what right-wing people are thinking about it. People are going, well, that's just that's a seminar to stop liberal people.
Yeah, and also, who are these neutrals? Who are these neutrals that they keep on? Like, it's like half the country has decided we are Switzerland about everything. Apparently, they're always like, where is the? And it is really weird because you kind of go, we just want things to be funny, but also neutral. And you're like, nothing is neutral, really. Like everything has a point of view about something, and neutrality is not like a great basis for comedy. It's like, it's so weird. There's a really great joke in Futurama where there's like a neutral planet.
Right.
And I always think about it whenever they bring up like neutrality. And I think there's like a meteor or something coming towards the neutral planet. And one of the guys from the neutral planet says, "Tell my wife I said hello." And it always makes me laugh when I think about this. Like, but it's not neutral. They never mean neutrality. What they mean is just say Brexit is great and just admit that white people are better. Like, why don't you just ever admit that white people are better? And it's never. The thing is, the face of white supremacy, and I've always maintained this, is the least supreme elements of the white race. If Brad Pitt came out in favour of white supremacy, you'd be like, let's have that conversation. If Brad Pitt and Amy Adams were white supremacists, I'd be like, fair. Let's have the... Well, I don't agree personally, but let's have the conversation. But it's always these like scurvy-faced motherfuckers that look like bits are falling off them when you're not looking. Like, it's all these, like, weird partially reassembled Mr. Potato Head dudes.
Yeah.
But, listen, the Spectator is entitled to their opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion that I wouldn't wipe my arse with the Spectator because I believe it would try and have my anus deported.
The Spectator also suggested that you want more racism because your livelihood depends on it. So if you think about it, if racism was sorted out, what would you do then, Nish?
Yeah, I mean...
So you, I think you're going out fermenting racism.
Yeah,
in order that you can still work.
I have tried to, I am operating like a producer-style scheme here, where I'm trying to game the entire system. For me, someone like Martin Luther King, I'm always I have a dream that we will never be equal. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, you know, it's that thing of what would you do what would you talk about if there wasn't racism? You're anything else, any of the many things that I would like to talk about. There are so many things that I would like to talk about.
But also, you do talk about loads
Yeah,
of
I
other
know.
things. So it's just bullshit. Watching Live at the Apollo, that wasn't about racism.
It's really, it is just, it is very strange because there's a lot of intellectual inconsistencies in the things that they're saying.
Yeah.
Because they're sort of saying that one element of the critique is, listen, comedians should be free to talk about anything. But these comedians shouldn't talk about that. And you kind of go, I can't believe that you guys can't see the inconsistencies in your own position. But they can. They're just, you know, it's all, unfortunately, we're in a place where the media landscape is dependent on outrage in order to generate revenue. And that's sort of, that's a problem, I think, in terms of the coverage. And we're also in a media landscape where, and if you just think about the volumes and the way, I mean, you know, if you think about the divisions that are created politically, you're sort of talking about The Guardian and The Independent. The BBC is kind of caught in between everything. And then the kind of other side of it is the Telegraph, the Mail, you know, the Times. If you think about it, you look at it, and if you were in favour of impartiality in the media, you would look at it and go, there's a overcorrection the other way in terms of where the British press is. And I am in favour of balance in the press. I think part of the problem is at the moment we've got the balance very wrong and we're skewing hard the other way. You know, outside of the Guardian and the Independent and the Mirror, if you look at the rest of the printed press, it's definitely skewing in one direction, and we definitely saw that in terms of Brexit, and we're definitely seeing that in terms of the way the lockdown is being written about. I mean, there's been some excellent journalism actually in the Times covering, certainly in the first couple of weeks in March, covering how, you know, Johnson was missing Cobra meetings, they weren't. There's a lot of really good journalism that happened in the first couple of weeks, but it's sort of more the op-ed pages where, you know, I find no one likes lockdowns. That's what I think is mad when people are we're anti-lockdown. You're fucking everyone's anti-lockdown, mate. None of us are having a good time. I'm bored of wanking. That's how bad lockdown has got. It's, you know, no one's in favour of it, but I would rather that we all just lock down than have a bunch of people die. Surely that's something we would all be able to... But then you say that and you get called a cuck.
Well, it's, you know, you want something to be true enough. I mean, there's a lot of politics of sort of belief rather than of fact now.
Yeah, sure.
Again, maybe on both sides. And if you want something to be true, then you can sort of convince yourself that it must be true.
Yeah.
And like you say, I don't want to be in lockdown. I can think of lots of arguments why I shouldn't be in lockdown. And I'm grudgingly... I would like the old people whose lives I'm saving to say, hey, thanks for doing that. We're not going to have Brexit anymore, so as a little thank you to you. I'd like that to happen, rather than them getting away all the time. But no, I'm delighted to be saving their lives. And I'm delighted
you're welcome, oldies. You're welcome. Two comedians have been mildly inconvenienced. Not really financially. Actually, they've both done fine out of it. But they've been mildly inconvenienced.
To be honest, I live in the countryside. It's the same. It's the same as a normal
Are we
year.
disaster capitalists?
Yes, I think we are. Well, it's been all right for me, and that's all I can care. That's all I can. Yeah, I've done pretty well out of it. Thanks, Zoom.
Your new corporate sponsor, Zoom. Zoom. Turn your screen off when you're going for a shit. Zoom.
So let's, well, look, I don't know if I've really picked this up before with any of the many alumni of Durham University.
Yes.
But your little group from Durham University seem to have done pretty incredibly well. There was a sort of golden period of comedy that...
Yeah, it's funny. There were just a lot of people seemingly at that university at the same time that all were interested in pursuing comedy careers and then have successfully managed to do it. I have no idea why that is. But, you know, it's amazing. I mean,
it's never happened before because all the funny people go to Oxford and Cambridge. So it's incredible.
You know what?
So many.
I consider it my greatest life achievement to finally give poor, statistically incredibly affluent kids at Durham a hope of having a career in the arts. That's my great legacy. It was just really weird because in my year group in the Durham Review, Ed Gamble and Tom Neenan were in it, and you know, then the year below us, there were kind of 2 years below us that made up the sketch group Massive Dad. So that's Stevie Martin, Tessa Coates, Liz Smith. We all just happened to be there at the same time. And
do you think? I think because the same thing happened weirdly at the period I was at university.
Yeah, because your Oxford Review is like loads of you still like
Munnery, Armando Iannucci and
right.
Stuart and Al Murray, Kevin Cecil, Andy Riley, who were fantastic successful
writers. Sally Phillips in it around
Sally
that time.
Phillips was around. Yeah, so Dave Schneider. So there was. I think like if you suddenly have a little explosion of interest somewhere, and it's the right group of people. And many more people as well, actually, to be fair. I think it just, everyone really focused in and we all kind of left thinking, let's give this a go.
I definitely think that maybe I'm slightly soft selling it by saying it was just a weird coincidence, because it definitely helped. Because like Ed Gamble, certainly when we were younger, like understood, like I wanted to do comedy, but I didn't know what that, to me it was like saying, I want to be a magician. Like it didn't have any, there wasn't any practical understanding of how you went about that. But certainly when I met Ed, he had already been to Edinburgh.
Right.
And so he already understood that, there was the Fringe and that anyone can take a show there. And then also he understood that there were like, the circuit, how the circuit works. And there are these weekend clubs that you can go and do. And, he definitely meeting him helped me understand the actual practicalities. He was much more forward-thinking than the rest of us at the time in terms of the fact that he'd actually looked into how some of these things worked. Yeah. And, like, people got agents and I had no fucking clue about any of that stuff. Yeah. And so it definitely helped, for sure. And then, but going to Edinburgh, and that's one of the best things the university helped us do. And it's one of the reasons that it's very difficult for me to discount. I would love to mythologize myself as being this entirely self-made person, but that's absolute horseshit. And the fact that I went to university gave me the opportunity to go to Edinburgh. And when I went to Edinburgh, and the university would give us some money as well to go up there, which massively helped us. And being in Edinburgh, you suddenly are like, oh, okay, I kind of roughly see how this works. And it definitely... It massively helps to come through with people at the same time. And then when you actually start, what really helps is like having some friends who are doing it at the same time, just so that you can all reflect on like what you're doing and how you're doing, and having contemporaries who are going through the same things as you at the same time is really helpful, and really it was an invaluable thing for me.
Yeah, and I think people think that, people think that happens a lot from universities, but I don't think it does. The student comedy, every now and again it'll flourish and create something, but there's a lot, certainly in Oxford, everyone goes, oh, everyone just gets on TV. Yeah. There was probably 20 years between the last successful thing from Oxford and sort of the growth of all the people who came out of my time.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. And even now, the chain, the assumption was that if you had a successful enough Edinburgh, you would just get a TV show. But even that's completely changed, and that's gone completely out of the water. And there was a time where winning something like winning the award at Edinburgh would like automatically give you a TV show. And even that now doesn't exist in the same way. Yeah. And everything's definitely changing. And so But the most important thing, I think, is like having the support of people that have known you for a long time.
Yeah.
And also stops you from becoming a dickhead. I think it's definitely stopped me.
But I guess also if there's a few groups and there's a little bit of competition in it, and you see someone do well and that spurs you on to do something well.
I think probably we don't talk enough about the helpfulness of competition, because I think it's more interesting, and it is also in some ways more important to talk about the sort of toxicity of competitiveness. Because I've always thought the healthiest way to frame it is that you always want to keep pace with your friends.
Yeah.
I think when things get unhealthy is when you think, I have to beat them, or I have to be ahead of them, or I have to win in some way. Yeah. But for me, the challenge and the way that it helped me out was always trying to keep pace with my friends.
Yeah, also, if they become much more successful, it's really annoying. Like Armando Iannucci's done David Copperfield, Peter Bainham's, Borat, Stuart Lee's doing all right, and I'm like, fucking hell, I'm doing this. There's no one in the theatre. Doing this to the next guest. Right, we still got a bit of time. I wanted to address this with you. Your Wikipedia entry does not know how old you are or what your birth date is. Like you're from medieval times or something. Like someone like medieval monk, it would go born in 207 or 208. We're not sure. Your Wikipedia page doesn't know what year you were born in. It says born 85 or 86.
It's really funny. I've seen it. There was also a period afterwards, after Breadgate, as I'm now referring to it, where my Wikipedia page temporarily had a controversy section. Right. And if you're a male comedian and your Wikipedia page has a controversy section, let's face it, it's normally one thing that you've controversied. And I thought it was very funny that for me, the closest I get to controversy is having one bread roll thrown near me at a charity luncheon. I don't know why that is.
Do you want to clarify when you were born?
No, I refuse to. It's also, what's weird is that if you Google me, you can see my full date of birth. So I don't know why. What I will say is my Wikipedia page is harder to edit than most people's.
Okay.
Because it got... my Wikipedia page basically got hacked by my cousins. I've got a 14-year-old cousin and a 16-year-old cousin who live in Australia, and I've loved them very dearly, but they're also fucking douchebags because they found out that I had a Wikipedia page, and they found out that anyone can edit Wikipedia, and all hell broke loose. And they changed it so that it said something like, I weigh 3,000 billion tons, and every morning I stick a potato in my butt. And they said I was best known as Madam Lily, which is what they've called me Madam Lily since they were young, which is not, I assumed was a reference to some Australian television character. And my uncle said, I just want to tell you, it's not. They just, the girl just started calling me Madam Lily when she was about 6 years old. And they still call me Madam Lily now. And so it was, it was in the top of my Wikipedia profile, it said Nish Kumar, better known as Madam Lily. And then I talked about this on Zaltzman's podcast, on The Bugle. I mentioned this, and The Bugle's fan base, I mean, it's not unlike your fan base, Richard, in that you can't dangle the carrot of Wikipedia edits in front of these, no offense, fucking assholes. And so for like a day, my Wikipedia page was so heavily molested that it now can only be edited by Wikipedia-approved moderators, which is why I think once my date of birth once a piece of information has just snuck under there. David Trent edited my Wikipedia page years ago to say that so there's like loads of facts about I don't know if this is still current, but there was a period on my Wikipedia page, even like 6 or 7 months ago, where there was loads of like facts about my career, and then it just said he replaced David Trent at the charity chuckle in 2011 or something. And the thing is, basically every piece of information that was verifiable that got in under the wire before the iron curtain of Wikipedia moderation came down is now just gospel in there. And unfortunately, one of the pieces of information that didn't make the cut was the year that I was born. But I was born in 1985, if that helps anyone further understand.
It's good to know that you're not like one of the obscure Caesars. We're not quite sure when he was born. We feel he died in 1859. We're not sure.
Daniel Kitson is listed on Wikipedia as a known recluse, and I actually think that I have now gone one up on him by it not being clear when I was born.
But your own website is also very lazily put together. So I think like it's saying 2018 gigs upcoming.
I understand that what you're trying to do here is shame me, Richard,
Yeah.
in terms of like my own online app. But what this is really doing is shaming your credibility as a, and I'm using this term incorrectly, journalist. What you're basically saying is, I Googled you half an hour before the show and got fucking nothing out of it.
I printed it up. That's very unusual. I printed up information about you this time. I do a full 2 or 3 hours research. What I like about Wikipedia is Wikipedia is used by journalists to write articles, and then you can use the article they write as verification. So, like, an article, there was someone writing about Taskmaster in New Zealand who obviously didn't know who I was, and someone is, not quite as a joke, because I am doing ventriloquism, but Rich Herring's a comedian and ventriloquist on there, and then that New Zealand article goes, Rich Herring, the UK comedian and ventriloquist. As if that's what I'm best known for. And now I can link to that and that proves that I'm a ventriloquist. If anyone links to my ventriloquism, they'll be in trouble. But it is true. So I like the fact that you can, the minute someone's written about it, you can verify it.
I'm going to start referring to you as the professional ventriloquist, Richard Herring.
Well, I guess, am I professional? I haven't been paid for ventriloquism, I don't think, yet. I've been paid to play snooker against myself. So I'm a professional self-playing snooker, both by a paying audience, the BBC during lockdown. That was one of my extra gigs I got paid like proper. I could go to my wife, who for 11 years has been saying, why the fuck are you doing this waste of fucking time?
She's not wrong.
Playing yourself at snooker. And then I can go, oh, would you want to buy some food with this check? From the BBC.
Richard, now as someone who has drawn a BBC wage on a number of different programmes, I'm sort of aware that there is a slight cash flow problem at the corporation. I don't want to guess at the size of check, but I'm guessing if we pro-rata it over 11 years, it works out to about 3p a year.
It's not the point. That's very much not the point. Right, I'll ask you some emergency questions. Look at that. The time is just, it flies by.
This is what I mean.
It's nice to chat to someone in real life, isn't it? You know what I mean?
It's good to speak to someone. It's really good to speak to someone in real life.
I was saying to you, I think I am actually having more of a social life than I did before lockdown.
Yeah, you did say that to me. It made me worried and
because every
sad.
Wednesday I talk to someone for an hour and it's a different person. And like for a solid hour I have a chat with someone, and there's probably weeks before lockdown that I went for 3 or 4 weeks without talking to someone who wasn't hadn't either sprung out of my loins or was quite interested in having a go on them.
Is that how we're describing your wife now, Richard?
She likes having a go on my
She
loins.
likes having a go on your loins.
That's what they're there for.
If you guys do get divorced and I'm asked to provide a character witness, I am going to have to say he did once describe her as someone who likes having a go on my loins.
Got 2 kids to prove it, so at least 2 times.
People don't really describe them as their... You don't really ever hear loins just used colloquially. Oh, I've copped one in the loins.
She loves my loins. That's what she married me for.
I don't think it's like rappers are not going to start using my loins.
They might do. Oh, well, I'll ask you, this isn't in the book. I'll ask you this, because I don't think... I've got to be careful. I've had you on twice. I could have asked you questions before, Nish.
Yeah, that's
I did have
right.
a little look to see. Have you seen a ghost since the last time you were on?
No, still no
okay,
ghost.
Still no.
Still snake eyes on the ghost front.
Okay. If you could have one item from any art gallery or museum in the world, all the art galleries and museums in the world, so we love Nish Kumar, we're going to give him one thing that you can keep. You can take home a painting or an artifact or anything you want. What would you like from any museum or art gallery in the world?
Marcel Duchamp's urinal.
Okay.
Because I think I like it because it's also got a practical function. I can both have an objet d'art and also a urinal in my house.
Would you put it in the bathroom, or would you have it in a different room so that you could save yourself a trip?
I'll be honest with you, Rich. I'm spending a lot of time in my house.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cricket on at the moment. I wouldn't mind having a fully plumbed urinal in the corner of my living room.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate that at all.
I think as you get older,
Yeah.
just by the bed.
Just by...
Just because I'd have to get up 2 or 3 times in the night to go for a wee. If I could just literally like get my loins, flop them over the edge.
Flop your loins off the edge of the
over
bed.
the edge of the bed. I mean, I guess I could just get
Richard,
a bucket.
are you pissing out of your loins again? I won't be having a go on those for the next couple of weeks.
Those are my loins. Good, that's a good answer. Let's see what else we've got for you. I don't know if we've gone. I don't know. I can't remember it. Because I stopped doing the very early ones, and because there's an audience of someone's on the. Anne-Marie's on the fucking phone. How dare you, Anne-Marie? She's on the phone.
Oh my God, there's a child watching.
Where?
Matthew's got there's a child watching. I can't believe you just talked about your fucking loins in front of a child, Richard. Oh, the kid's gone. You waved your loins at a child and now they've run away.
They won't know what loins are. They'll think they're kind of lions. Sky's dressed up as a lizard now. No, a frog. She's dressed up as...
The Loins, the Witch and the Wardrobe is a porn movie I do not want to see.
I don't know if Helen Coote knows that scary, staring man is in her room with her. Helen Coote looks very like a normal person, and there's a terrifying spectral figure beside her who seems to have horns. Oh no, it's the thing behind him.
There was a clock behind him that made him look like he had devil horns.
Oh, sorry, mate. I'm sorry, I've embarrassed you. Good.
You know you have these emergency questions to avoid awkward pauses.
Yeah.
But you've now created more of a shuffling pause.
That's what I like. I'm going to ask. I don't know if I've asked you the very early questions. Have I ever asked you if you prefer to have a hand-made out ham or an armpit that dispenses sun cream?
I don't know. It's hard for me to say because I've listened to this podcast for quite a long time.
And you've thought about
so
the
I can't
answer to
remember.
that.
I think I've probably thought about the answers quite a lot.
I've got Jeremy Paxman on in about 3 weeks' time.
Oh, really?
And I want to just, I'm going to do it quite sensibly, but then at the end ask him that and go, answer the question. When he goes, what are you talking about? Answer just, if that one just comes out of nowhere. Answer the question,
Come on,
Jeremy. It's a
come
simple
on.
question. Which is it?
Are you going to repeat the question
Yeah,
like he did
just
in the...
repeat. But I'll have to leave it right to the end, otherwise he'll just hang up on me. People can leave really easily. If I do it at the
anyone
start.
walk? No, you've
No,
not
I
had
don't
anyone
think.
walk
No, I
out.
don't think I've. No, Stephen Merchant, walked off. But
Stephen Merchant
at the end.
Stephen Merchant emotionally left the stage.
Stephen Merchant left. The bloke from the, what's his name?
Well, it sounds like
Ricky Wilson.
Right, okay, fine.
He was sort of on stage, but wasn't on stage.
Right.
at any point during
He's the
it.
man from the Kaiser Chiefs.
Kaiser
right?
Chiefs. That it was.
Was that the problem? And my first guest is what's his fucking name? Oh, he's probably best known for he was in that band. Oh,
Not sure.
Franz Ferdinand.
Yeah,
I don't know. One of them.
That's the danger. That's the danger. What is the answer? I'll press now. What is your answer? Hand or some pretty much? It's a simple question. Stop evading the question.
I can't believe you're using me as a dry run for Paxman. Last time I was just meat in the room replacing. Sheen. I would say. I would prefer the armpit that dispenses sun cream.
Oh, interesting.
Because here's the thing, I always forget sunscreen because I have nature's sunscreen, melanin, and until I went to Kenya, I didn't think it was possible for me to get sunburn. I genuinely thought it wasn't possible for me to get sunburned.
Okay.
And then I was doing the travel show that I did with Joel Dommett, and I said to him. Like it was, it's the equatorial sun. Like the sun in Kenya is not fucking around. And after about like half an hour of us being out in the sun, I said to Joel, like, I think I've got eczema. And he was like, no, that's sunburn. Like, it did make me feel, I understand now why white people are so angry.
Yeah.
It just makes a lot of sense to me. Because externally, it feels like it's all going very well for you. But when I had sunburn, I was like, get them out, send them back. So yeah, I would like the. Whereas I always have ham.
Yeah.
I always know I need ham, so I always have ham in.
Yeah.
So I'm never short of ham. Whereas
Someone on Twitter today was discussing it, asking and said that he would rather.
do you
have,
feel
he was
good
saying
about your legacy,
He
Richard?
was saying you'd rather. I haven't asked this question for ages. That's why it's interesting it's come up again. He was saying he'd rather have the ham made of ham because he could sell that.
What?
And make money from the ham. And I just think, who would buy Like, it's only a hand for each month. You know, who would buy someone else's ham
Oh,
hand?
I would definitely not buy someone's ham hand.
But then also, then I thought, you know, when you're buying ham, it's sort of worse than someone else's ham hand, isn't it? So I guess, I wouldn't eat someone's hand made of ham. Oh, some dead flesh of a pig. Yes. I don't know. Yes. Bring that in.
I think that if you've, I think that you lose the right, if you've ever eaten a kebab,
Yeah.
and not from like, and not from, if you've eaten a kebab, I'm not talking about kebabs. I'm not pronouncing it, I'm pronouncing it incorrectly deliberately. Okay. I'm not talking about like something that's like inherited from like Middle Eastern cuisine or Turkish cuisine or even like South Asian, Indian and Pakistani kebab. I'm talking about a kebab.
Yeah.
If you've ever eaten one of those, you should eat stuff that's on the floor. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, this has fallen on the floor, and then I'll remember that I ate what's definitely a rotating skewer of ass meat, and I just was like happily wolfing that down.
Yeah.
There's no worries about it.
I really miss that. It's a nice kebab place on the Uxbridge Road, very near to where you live, I think, or where you used to. Have you moved yet?
Which one?
I can't remember what it's called. I should know, but it's about 3 or 4 years since I lived there, and that's the one thing I'd like to move back to London for.
There was one
the
place.
The one that used to be next to Tesco's.
Shabab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best. Yeah, Shabab.
It's fucking
that's
amazing.
The best place in the
I
world.
don't know if it's still open because I haven't been. I've moved, so I don't know whether it's still open. But it was absolutely incredible. And once I was doing a gig with Tim Key, and he tried to book a table at Shabab. Shabab is like it's a kebab house with like plastic tables. The food is amazing because they bake their own naan bread, and so the naans
amazing.
were always incredible, and the meat is delicious. It's properly delicious, but it's not. I don't even know how he thought it was possible, but he was like, "I've reserved us a table online," and I was like, "At Shabab? How the fuck have you done that?"
The first time it's ever been used. Hey, look, we're going to have to stop. We've overrun in all the excitement. It's been lovely to have you. I just want to say to you people there, thank you for being part of the show.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
And you know, you're all right. Most of you are all right. You know, crack a fucking smile, some of you. There's no problem in just looking happy.
Have you guys got the wrong URL? Were you supposed to be attending a Zoom funeral? Jesus Christ.
But if you are going to come to the second show, then you have to go out of this room and come back into the other room. So don't just hang around in this one, because there's nothing else going to be in this one. If you want to come if you haven't paid yet, go and pay. And you can see me talking to Lou Sanders at about 6:45. We will see. But for the now, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the amazing Nish Kumar. Look, you can actually
Thanks
applaud
very
him
much, everybody.
if you want.
Thank you very much.
Do that if you didn't like him.
Lovely to see you all.
Boo.
By all means,
throw a
boo.
bread roll.
By all means, bread roll me.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
We're still here. Goodbye.
How'd you like them sky potatoes?